Hey, I've never really posted something like this before, but I'm at a point where I don't know what to do. I am 21, ended my 10-month relationship with my ex NB1 about 2-ish months ago. I'm really struggling in the aftermath and don't know how to proceed. For context, we met at the tail end of my last relationship, which lasted from age 16-20. That relationship was incredibly toxic and emotionally abusive in so many ways. By the end, they told me our relationship had never been special. They never thought of me. We were long distance, and I later found out they cheated on me. When I met the ex this post is about, I'll call them L. We were nothing more than classmates who talked once or twice. One day, we had an in-class critique. It was a photography class, and they had a picture of someone I had gone to high school with. After class, I mentioned that I knew that person, and we talked a little bit more, but nothing came of it. Flash forward to a month after my breakup. I'm pretty devastated, but making good progress in actually working on myself. I started therapy, meditating, journaling, reading, working out. I strengthened my relationships with my friends and my dad. Things were turning up. One day, out of the blue, I got a text message from Elle asking me out. I was nervous at first, since I had just gotten out of such a long-term, emotionally draining relationship, but my friends encouraged me to go into it with a casual mindset. I did, and we had a good time. I got sick, and a couple of weeks passed between us going out, but eventually we did, and we ended up kissing. That was a big deal for me. I had only been in one relationship at this point in my life and hadn't even had sex, like I said. It was a weird, fucked, toxic situation. Needless to say, I was upfront about my situation and said I wasn't looking for anything serious, which they said they were fine with waiting until I was ready, and we continued to see each other. After a month or so, I felt comfortable making things official, and from there it was a dream. They were so loving and kind and funny. I felt I could be authentic and weird with them without judgment. We had very similar sex drives. They got along with my friends, and we could have really deep, intelligent conversations. It felt like everything I lacked in my previous relationship. As time went on, we both revealed more and more of our flaws and trauma, but we both did our best to be supportive and understanding of one another. Elle had some particularly deep-rooted trauma, which contributed to a very anxious attachment style, and a history of serious mental health issues between the two of us certainly didn't help. Elle wanted to spend as much of our free time together as possible. In high school, that would have been my dream, but after my last relationship, made a commitment to balance, and I never want to let another relationship overtake my friendships and my own aspirations. Their grades slipped, and they got put on academic suspension, and all of their friends live and go to school out of state. So as time went on, I felt more and more like the burden of responsibility for their happiness fell on me, which in turn made me feel a little claustrophobic. I wanted to make time for my friends and school. The end of that semester was a tough time for us, but we were able to push through, and the summer was amazing. They took a summer class. Their friends were back in town. They started a new job, and I was in a similar boat, so we really felt like we were on the same page. Sadly, however, summer doesn't last forever. I moved out of my parents' house for the first time this September, and obviously with that comes a whole new level of stress and responsibility. I pretty quickly got burnt out, and they were supportive of me. We even ended up working at the same job together and still do. My life became more and more busy, busier than it had ever been before. My life consisted of bouncing from one place to the next, coming home to sleep, and doing the same thing each and every day. I was so burnt out, and I fell into a really bad depressive state. At the same time, they also started to run into some more issues, and I think our attachment styles started to clash. They wanted to spend even more time together, and I wanted more time to myself to just exist. Things came to a head in November, the busiest month of my life. I work in film, and I had projects and shoots non-stop for weeks. It was the most stressful period of my life, and our issues were heightening from it. I had a huge 3-day shoot, And on the morning of the first day I got a text saying that we needed to talk because they felt really lonely. Note: it has been a day or two since we last saw each other. I told them I couldn't talk about something that's serious on set over text, so we either needed to call at that moment or talk about things another time. They told me it could wait, but kept texting me about things the whole day. I was stressed out of my mind and had work to prepare for the next day's shoot, but I told them I could wake up earlier than I originally planned the next day and do that work then, so we could see each other. It was a fine enough evening. They were a little mopey, but it was still pleasant. The next day I went into it thinking things would be good, but I got the same texts again, and again the next day. After that, I had to obsessively work on a script that was due that week, but I told them we could meet up for all my lunch breaks, trying to make the time for them where I could. On that first lunch we had together, they were so distraught over having not seen each other in 2 days that we couldn't even enjoy the time we spent together. I told them we needed to have a more serious conversation to make sure we were still on the same page about things. When we did, I told them I needed them to tell me what they want, what they need, and what boundaries they have, because it felt like I never knew what they were until I accidentally crossed one. They said everything was fine, that they would take whatever time they could get from me, but I could tell that wasn't true. They needed more from me than I was able to give, and I needed more room to pursue these other avenues of life. I was still committed to making things work though, so I told them they had to come up with their wants, needs, and tell me. They never really did, and finals week approached. I was so overwhelmed with everything in life. My car had gotten broken into and my camera and wallet was stolen. My parents announced they were getting divorced. My dad couldn't help me with some of my bills anymore, so everything was coming out of my own pocket. I still had at least one huge project due in each class. I felt like a walking corpse. On top of that, we were still having the same issues, and I hit my breaking point. One day after work I told them we needed to talk, and when I showed up to their house, they looked so happy to see me. I still can't get that look out of my head. We sat outside and I told them that I loved and cared about them deeply, but I couldn't keep going anymore. I felt like I was on the verge of a breakdown. They told me they wanted to be there for me and wait for me to be better, but I told them that wasn't fair to them. They deserve someone who can meet them where they are and love them the way they need to be loved. We were both crying and told each other we still loved each other, but we had to go our separate ways. They reached out a handful of times in the month afterwards, asking if there wasn't any way we could salvage things, and I told them I wasn't in the headspace to have these conversations right now. I later heard from a friend of theirs that a week or so after the breakup they went back to the mental hospital. I was deathly afraid of what might have happened, but I didn't want to risk hurting them even more. Eventually, the messages stopped coming. I tried throwing myself into online dating, convinced I wasn't looking for a rebound. I totally was, but nothing felt right. I only just recently fully deactivated my accounts, and since then Ella's started to linger more and more in my mind again. I think of all the beautiful, one-of-a-kind details about them. I think of the way we laughed, the way we loved, the way we would sit in my parents' front yard and look up to the stars. They love stars, and talk about how it felt like the universe brought us together. I think about the time I had a full-blown paranoid episode, something I deal with that I hadn't even told my other ex, or my friends, or my parents that I deal with, and they just hugged me and told me it would be alright. I had never felt so safe. I'm haunted by these beautiful memories. I think I made the decision that was best for us in the circumstances that we were under, but I lay awake at night wondering what could have happened if I had hung on a little longer, if I had pushed through this last semester of school, and if could focused on the issues that were tearing us apart. I can't tell if I'm caught up in the nostalgia and loneliness or if I still do want to try and make things work between us. I don't want to cause them any more pain. I want them to be happy, even if that isn't with me, but I still care about them deeply. I sent them a text today after talking it over with my therapist asking if they wanted to talk again sometime. They said they appreciated it, but they didn't feel like they wanted to talk about things with me right now. They told me They're trying every day to not think about me, because it's too painful. But they wish me the best, and that I find someone worth fighting for. I feel absolutely torn up and lost. My feelings change like the winds. One second I want to make a big romantic gesture and tell them they are the someone worth fighting for, and the next I feel happy for them, that they've made their peace and leave them to find whatever happiness they can. I genuinely can't tell how I feel, and it's maddening. -1 trying to get back into the swing of working on myself, but have still been so depressed and overwhelmed with work and school. I'll take any advice I can get. Told I'm torn up over my feelings for my ex 2 months after the breakup. We had a loving but complicated relationship, and I don't know how to move forward in the aftermath.